I received a rather cheeky YouTube comment saying, have you ever thought that like book collecting is an illness? And honestly, I think it's a sign of a mentally ill society to ask such a question. Why wouldn't you want to preserve the written word? I'm a mad monk in my cave with my scrolls and my familiars, sure. But the world is uncertain and the information landscape is changing constantly. You never know what will be available and what won't be. Collecting physical media, collecting books, these are societal goods, personal goods. Who knows, maybe because of some weird disaster, all this will be trapped beneath like layers of something. Like that French lady's apartment that was discovered 100 plus years later. Perfectly sealed up, but this will be much, much later, and all the knowledge of the ancient world will be preserved here. Like ancient texts of Pompeii. Sadly, 3 kitty skeletons will also be found. And 1 human. Oh, I do not think it is an illness or a condition. Collect books. It's not like I'm hoarding parakeets here in a giant warehouse. An example I mentioned because I was briefly employed by a bird hoarder a long time ago, feeding all these birds on this property out in Edgewood. It was disgusting, and every time I would go, I would find new dead animals and nasty stuff that had not been dealt with. I think that lady may have eventually been investigated for animal abuse. Weird jobs you find in life sometimes. Yeah, you get paid under the table to feed this veggie mix to hundreds and hundreds of birds. That's the bad kind of hoarding. The good kind of hoarding is knowledge, experience, human connection. That's what books represent. If it was a man that wrote that comment, how dare you, sir? If it was a woman, miss, I must protest. Sometimes I just look admiringly at the sci-fi section because to me this represents such a wonderful mental landscape. I was just thinking about reading something from this section. I don't want to reread Galapagos from Vonnegut. This draws to me now that I own it. I'm like, oh, I have The Stand from Stephen King. One thing that really makes me want to read that is that I heard that it began as based on another book on Earth Abides. George Stewart, which I have around here somewhere, maybe. Thought I did. Well, who knows? The science books. I mean, this one is so connected to a period of research in my life, a chapter of my life. It's crazy. I think I read all of these. It's for a book-length, guidebook-formed chapter of my book about a 7-month canoe trip that I took. It's my only chapter that has a full bibliography and index. I think that bibliography is a really good one. I love a good bibliography on a subject. Like, read all these books and you'll really know this subject. Or I'll never forget my year or so of reading just about the Big Bang. That was such a wonderful intellectual year for me. Science books. Books about the Southwest. That's my bread and butter. I've written so much about the Southwest. New Mexico, etc. I mean, these are Southwest books, but they're all New Mexico books, and these are very relevant to my writing. I still write for New Mexico periodicals like Nob Hill News, and find that I use these books as references for context, etc. Often for very specific things. Like recently I wrote an article about the Nob Hill Shopping Center, the first car-based shopping center in America, which is here in Albuquerque, and these books were a great help. Art crit and so on. Back in the glory days of the AV Club, I wanted to write for them so bad. I would have been a great AV Club writer, and I came close. I was a top commenter when they had a book club and would get shouted out and thanked by the main writers there, like Tasha Robinson. But then they disbanded the book club. But if they hadn't, I think I would have been drawn into the ranks of the AV Club in the same way that Zach Hanlon was through his video game reviews, comments. I love art crit. I find that like most people engage with pop culture very superficially, or else the ones that don't are hiding. Where are you? I love to have like academic in-depth discussions about things, like YouTube creator types, you know. But people are like, it's good. But a fun thing about the kind of inexact sections that I have here, where it's just like art crit, lit crit, film crit, is the cross-pollination and the way that things mix together. Every section feels lively to look at and interesting. Never just like more of the same. There is sameness to be had. Here's all Dostoevsky, amazing. And about Dostoevsky, or Dostoevsky adjacent. Here's all Virginia Woolf. This isn't hoarding, this isn't a condition. This is having great art around you. Being influenced by it, you hope. Joyce. I was slow to come to Joyce. is an important and kind of amazing figure. Fascinating to read about and study. Got some oatmeal in the microwave. I should go get that. James A.G., master of silence and light. Someone to study for sure. G.G. Woodhouse, so funny. These books, these aren't hoarding. These are just like, I like to have a good time, you know? I like to laugh. Live, laugh, learn, as a wise sage named Hobby Lobby once said. Shakespeare. I'm not happy with the Shakespeare shelf. It's too crowded. There's no room to grow. Maybe I should put it next to the Virginia Woolf shelf and let it sprawl over a little bit, a little overlap. Because I still want to get a paperback of every play, you know? I plan to read them all once I have them all in that form, because paperbacks are so friendly. So no, that's not hoarding. None of this is hoarding. This is like joy. This stuff's a personal record. I'm in half those New Mexico magazines there as a writer. I wrote this one. I like that the apartment is also decorative-wise like a deconstruction of the book. Books and book imagery abound. Framed printed works, hodgepodge book covers. But you know, I think all the greatest artists say of their work, I am my work. And since my work is the business of writing, bringing books around means creating a fertile artistic ground. Here's individual authors also that I have fewer of than the ones out there. Some of them. It's not hoarding. I encountered another person's life with the My Struggle books. I was another person. I know a little bit what it's like to be Knausgaard because I read 3,600 pages very close to his thoughts. I kind of feel like I know Bill Bryson too because his work is so personal and fun, you know, across all those. I kind of feel like Annie Dillard's my cool, weird pal. Now Scott Fitzgerald and I have the same birthday, September 24th. Sometimes I feel like we have similar burdened life paths. And with alcoholism, me with poverty. It's the struggles of life, you know. Oh, here's another section that's definitely not hoarding. These are all writing books. I am a writer. I've read half of these. Some of them more than once. Weird books. You know, I used to write a column called My Strange New Mexico. These aren't hoarding. These are all kind of self-helpy. You know. My favorite book format, the mass market paperback. Here's all nonfiction. Beautiful curated selection. And then this is the heart of the channel, the paperback, mass market paperback literary fiction case. I'm going to read it all, even though I'm letting it pile up and stuff and get all crazy. I'm going to still maintain the general life goal of reading this whole one. I'm reading Picnic at Hanging Rock by Joanne Lindsay right now. From this. I feel like someday a figure is going to appear in this, like in the book The Witches by Roald Dahl. It's kind of got a mysterious vibe like that. I think this painting was from a homeless person's storage unit that was getting emptied out for sale at the intersection of Wantabo and Central. My kids always say that they remember a black cat being in this image. That's like some pretty good family lore. I'm convinced they just misremembered this image. They swear that they're not conflating the two, but love that. Good lore. Good family lore. Book review from 1936. Those letters are amazing. That's my favorite book about art. Though I love The Art Spirit by Robert Henri as well. I want to read Art and Fear, Sweet Pea, because a talented artist friend recommended this one. Adding that to currently reading while I'm thinking of it. Some nights it's electric pencil sharpener, which is plugged into the wall, just has weird electrical things going on with it, and it makes all sorts of crazy sounds. I'm going to sell it to the Warrens for their museum. All right. You know what they say? Oh, you know how there are those kind of iconic plain all capitals fonts, bumper stickers that say skateboarding is not a crime. I want to copy that and say book hoarding is not a crime. What's crazy though is my books aren't worth anything. I've been super poor a million times and tried to sell the collection. And the most I've ever made was, there was this guy that used to have a little pop-up bookstore where he would just set up some shelf cases on tables at Winnings Coffee and other places. It's called Bradley Books. And he came over and went through my collection and bought a selection. Okay, Dick, science books, Vonnegut, stuff like that. Stuff college students like. And I don't think I made more than a couple $100. In these antique books, I took them to a collector once, and he told me they were basically worthless because they've all got various damage done to them, and he could find them for cheaper online, and really he was only interested in books from the 15 and 1600s. I'm like, but some of these are like money. That's not really how the market is. I mean, if I really wanted to and had the infrastructure for it, I could probably like set up a page or something and sell everything individually online. But this collection gives me great pleasure. And, you know, I find it a creatively rewarding, stimulating environment. And who knows, maybe we're a year or two away from jackbooted thugs, you know, bringing books out into the street and burning them. I mean, it's happened before in history. So I gotta memorize one of these books if Fahrenheit 451 is any indication. It's the ending. Everyone memorizes a book. And you know, I mean, you gotta have an educated populace. How do you get educated? You gotta read stuff. Let's use my phone. Yeah, but that's a very curated cultural stream, you know? You curate your own thinking. I don't know. What I do know is the piece I've been writing is really getting satisfying and taking shape. It's gonna be the introduction for my book. I really like the visual formatting of it. I'm gonna give it to my writing group to critique. What do you think about that, Squirrel? This movie's great. Great pair of performances with good bro chemistry between Russell Crowe and Paul Bettany, who would later play Vision in the Marvel movies. What's up? I read this book forever ago, but I'd never seen the movie. I read that book as part of that same AV Club Raptum Books book club that I mentioned earlier. Favorite book cover ever. Well, it's up there with James Agee. I love this one, so good. H is one of those writers that you find and you're like, oh, suddenly this person influenced me. It's a great dual biography that I'm going to reread someday. Not the brother of this writer here. He owns the venue, The Outpost, here in Albuquerque. Great rise, great fall. The chapter in this first one about the discovery of the rock sound, where Sam Phillips says, that sounds kind of like a country song. That sounds kind of like a pop song, or something like that. So good. Great music writing. You know, I've always thought a really stupid quote is Frank Zappa saying that music criticism was stupid because writing about music is like dancing about architecture. Unless I'm taking that badly out of context, that's just insane. Why not dance about architecture? I'd watch that. And music writing can really elevate and add invisible colors to music. A heightened appreciation and awareness and connection to. Plus it's part of a big, beautiful story of song. The thing that makes this collection not hoarding is that it's limited. I appreciate that. If I have too much of one subject, I have to find another place for something in that section or get rid of it. And I often get rid of stuff. I give away things with the free boxes as much as I get things. This collection is ever being honed and refined. It is a bonsai tree. Prismo is Mr. Miyagi. Or I am white. Anyone can have a bonsai tree. Anyway, this collection is my bonsai tree in that it's always being curated and maintained and pruned and shaped. Just recently I got that new case there on the right. Now I have poetry and philosophy and drama and utility and genre sections. This filled the whole kid's closet in the other room. I reduced it and moved what was left over here. The chapter books that were in that closet were put into this one. We're on to. I've always been sad none of my daughters have read the Anne books. We've all loved adaptations of them. Yeah. I mean, if any collection becomes any part of the collection becomes hoarding-like for purely sentimental reasons, it might be these for younger readers. But, you know, like fairy tales, that's timeless. That's all ages stuff. Worth owning, revisiting. But a lot of these are really good memories with my kids. And maybe they all have kids someday, or who knows. Maybe it's just acknowledging that there is good literature intended for all ages or younger ages. I mean, picture books, that's a crazy thing to still have. I gave away all the board books though, But this is no more hoarding than paying for a streaming service. I mean, sure it takes up a little space, but this is worlds of experience and image and idea. No regrets, to quote the famous internet neck tattoo. So this has been like the first video I've ever done that's like a response to a viewer comment. No hard feelings. That same comment also said, I wish I had a collection like that. So yeah, very cool. But that question just touches the nerve because I always hear it. My kids have brought it up. My ex-wives have brought it up. But it's free insulation. When I first moved in here, before the shelves and books were moved in, it was so cold. Seriously, it doesn't get that cold anymore. But it's an immediate difference once I got all the books up. Bro, I'm not even kidding. Not even kidding, bro. Yeah, I know. Anyway, books are cool. Every once in a while, I'll get somebody coming over and they'll see all these books and they'll be like, have you read all these? Which is, of course, is a giant indicator that they're not much of a reader. Like, no, of course not. Have you read all the books in the library you work at, Mr. Librarian? You know? But I could. I've read from them almost all. You know, they've all contributed something to me. Writers, so these books are a resource. They really are. You know, they're all going to contribute to my book. Shadows of Clouds on the Mountains, book 1 of 2, by Michael Farrell Smith. Coincidentally, that's my PayPal, at Michael Farrell Smith. I will mention anyone in the book that contributes. Why not? I'll find a way. I'll find a clever way. Mysterious photo I bought at a thrift store.